So topic is for verification and valuation of assets. So in that we are now going to discuss about furniture, fixtures and fittings, verification and valuation. In case the assets have been acquired during the current accounting period, the auditor should examine the invoice of the dealers. It should be noted that the adequate depreciation has been written off based upon the working life. So first of all, the auditor has to check the invoice if it is purchased the current academic year. So what he has to see, he has to see the purchase price, taxes, and installment charges, and he should also observe and verify whether the depreciation is allotted according to the life of the asset. So next, in case the fixtures and fittings on leaseholding premises, the whole cost should be written off over the period of the lease of their estimated working life, which is short, whichever is short. So in case of fixtures, so if it is a lease, the company has took it on lease. So what they have to calculate on the life of the uh, over the period which is shorter. That means whether the lease period is shorter or the working life is shorter. So they have to calculate on depending upon those things which is shorter than the other. Now let's see plant and machinery verification and valuation. In case of machines are purchased in current accounting period, the invoice and the agreement with the vendor should be verified. The auditor should examine the plant register in which particular about the cost records about sales, provisions and depreciation and etc. are available. So here the auditor should examine whether the machine purchased in the current year, so he has to check the invoice and as well as depreciation. For depreciation, in what kind of method they are using, whether the depreciation method is suitable for the machinery or not, those things should be verified by the auditor to get the actual value of machinery. In case of any plant and machinery has been scrapped, destroyed or sold, he should ascertain that the profit or loss arising thereon has been correctly determined. Whether in case there are any other plants and machineries who has been scrapped, that means destroyed, and if they have sold it, so whether this by solding or by scrapping those plant and machinery, the company got the profit or loss, that thing certain by the auditor and determined correctly by auditor in case of plant and machinery verification. And next, goodwill. So goodwill should be shown as an asset in the balance sheet only if it has been purchased. So that means if the company has purchased new business, then the goodwill is considered as asset. In such case, goodwill should be shown at cost. So in that at that time, so whatever the purchased price should be shown as cost. But if the price paid for goodwill has not been fixed specifically in the contract of sale, the amount of goodwill will be the difference between the total of purchase price and the other assets at agreed valuation. So less any liabilities taken over from the vendor. So if the a company purchased any other business, so the purchase price should be uh, taken as cost, and the auditor should also verify whether the cost is the same or written with in the assets or not, and for that he should verify the contract sale. So if there is no any a prescribed amount in the contract of sale. So again further he has to check in that purchase price other asset in if they are agreeing against purchase price, if they are agreeing any securities, any other things, liabilities taken over, those things should be verified for the verification of goodwill. Is investments. So investment include government securities, shares, debentures, etc. etc. When the number of investments is very large, the order should ask for a schedule of investment held by the client containing various particulars like name of the securities, date of purchase, nominal value, cost price, market price, etc., and examine the same. You should see that the asset has been shown separately in the balance sheet or not. So investments made by the company is an asset for company. So when auditor verifying those investments made by the company, so he should check the securities, how many number of securities they have purchased, they have invested into another company, and the price, at what price they have purchased it, and what on which date they have purchased, and what is the cost, what is the purchased price, and what is the market price. So he should also observe all these things in case of investment verification by auditor. Next is verification and valuation of trade creditors. So this is the most important thing because it will decide the profit of the company. So these things should be verified very carefully. So the first thing the auditor has to concentrate on is the correctness of liabilities depends upon the correctness of the purchases. Here, hence, the auditor should compare the percentage of gross profits to purchase with the top of the previous years to verify the correctness of purchases. If the purchases has been made in the last year, so he has to consider the value of at which the company purchased the raw materials or any other things, so that he can know whether the purchase price is correct in the present year or not. And the second thing is that the auditor should obtain a schedule of creditor and verify them with the balances of ledger account and statements account received from the creditor. So there could be more than one creditor for the company. So the auditor should take the schedule. That means in schedule there will be the details of date on which they have to repay the credit. So by observing those things, whether the company paid the creditors or not is revealed with those things. So he has to take the statements of accounts of bank in this situation. And third thing, you should also check the purchase book and purchase return book with the help of the invoices, credit notes. So you should also check the posting into the ledger. So these are the main things with which he can ascertain the actual purchases and actual returns are there in the company, and how much they have to pay for the creditors, and whether they're paying it or not should also be revealed with the verification. And the next thing is should examine the goods inward book to ensure that the goods purchased have been actually received. So there could be some purchases has been made when the audit is going on, but the goods, the physical goods hasn't received by the company. So he has to check whether the purchased goods received or not, and whether anything is in the transport stage. So he has to check the all goods inward book of the warehouse to know the purchases. he should see that all purchases made during the year have been accounted for, especially at the end of the year. So whatever the purchases made by the company, um, they have been accounted for specially or not. This thing should be verified by the auditor to know the actual purchases. And next thing is, you should examine the discount allowed to creditor during the period and say that this substantiate the credit balances. So whether any discount given by the seller to the company, so this discounts can make difference in purchase cost. So he should also verify those things when companies are paying creditors. So these things can be known through the bank statements which they have made payments. And the next thing is, in case of hire purchases, the auditor should see that the conditions of hire purchase agreement is properly compiled with. So in case any higher purchases are there, so they should check into the agreement. So what is the installment, what is the interest rate, and how they're going to pay. So these are things will be written in the purchase agreement. So he has to verify it to know the uh, actual details of purchases. And next is, the auditor should examine the entries made at the beginning as well as the end of the year to check the employees have been passed any fictitious entries in this regard. So first of all, the most important thing in the verification and valuation of trade creditors is the auditor should use the technique of checking the beginning entries and ending entries. Is there any differences between, is there any fictitious things are there which have been made by the uh, employees past to show increased cost for reducing the profits. So this thing is very important in trade creditors valuation and verification. And the last thing is, if any debt is found unpaid for a long time, an inquiry should be made, since it is possible that instead of paying to the creditor, the amount might have been misappropriated. So this is the most important thing, this and often thing made by companies, because sometimes they skip paying to the creditor. So if there any amount is not paid to creditor for a long time, so he has to go thorough into that details and verify why they haven't paid that amount and what is the reason. And if the where is the cash allotted for that creditors, and whether it is used or used in other ways, or they are misappropriated, the cash should be verified by the auditor in the trade creditors. Next is verification and valuation of bills payable. So this is also one of the important thing in a company's balance sheet. And the first thing the auditor has to do is, the auditor should obtain a schedule of bills payable, and its total should be compared with the bills payable book and bills payable account. So first of all, you should take the schedule, how many bills of exchange the company has, and how many they have paid, and still how many they have to pay. These things will be in the schedule. So by observing those things and comparing with the bills payable book and bills payable account, he can know how much pending and how much paid bills are there in the company. And the bills paid after the balance sheet date should be examined with the entries passed in the cash book. So is there any bills paid after the end of the year? So you should also check the entries that they passed in the proper way or not. The auditor should obtain confirmatory statements from the drawer directly with the permission of the client. So to check the correct bills of payable, so he should obtain a confirmatory statement from the client to know whether the bills of payable are paid directly or not to the drawer. And he should pay special attention, the auditor should pay special attention to bills that have been paid between the date of the balance sheet and the date of his audit have been duly written in the book. So this is the very important thing which the auditor has to observe, that after closing the books and mm, and starting when audit is started, there will be some time between the end of the books and the audit process is begin. So the auditor should concentrate on those period and that period, because there could be some transactions which can be made by the company. So he should take into consideration if there is any bills of exchanges are there paid by the company meanwhile. Next is verification and valuation of loans. So the auditor should verify the existence of loans, if any. In case of a company, the auditor should examine the correspondence contracts and directors minute book. So the loans are the main source for the company for financial assistance. So the concentration of auditor should be very careful on when he is verifying and evaluating the loans. First of all, he should see the correspondence, who involved, from which kind of financial institutions the company obtained loans, and contract between the creditors, and the creditors are the financial institutions, and the directors minute book. So there will be writing the details about loans in the minute book. So he should verify all these things when he is verifying the loans of the company. And the auditor should ascertain the terms of loan, amount of loan, period, and nature of loan by referring to the loan agreement. So the term of loan is very important, in how many years they're going to repay it, and the amount of loan, how much they took the loan, whether it is possible for the company to take that amount of loan or not, and if they take an amount, so whether they are paying the installments or not. These things should verify by the auditor in case of loans. And the auditor should confirm the balance of the unpaid loans directly from the creditors of the company with the permission of his client, that means company. So if there are any unpaid loans, so taking the taking the confirmation from the creditor is better thing for the auditor to know the loan amounts which are unpaid by the client, that means company. And next is, in case of loans or overdrafts taken from bank, an agreement with the bank and a certificate of the or to that effect should be obtained and examined. So when they have taken the overdraft, and from which date they're going to charge interest on the overdraft, these things should obtain from bank to evaluate a better of loans. The auditor should see whether the interest due has been paid or not. If the interest is due but not paid till the date of balance sheet, he should see whether the same has been clearly shown as liability therein. So any unpaid interest by the company on loans. So whether they are showing it in the balance sheet as a liability or not, it is very important uh, to verify by auditor in loans. And in case of joint stock company, the auditor should examine the borrowing powers of the company. He should also examine the register of charges and should see the charge created has been registered with the registrar. So whatever the loan taken by the company, it should be registered with the registrar. So the uh, uh, by the company, if it is a joint stock company, so the auditor should check whether they are registered with the registrar or not, uh, is very important. And it should see, it should be seen that the interest on loans has been paid up to date. If not, he should see whether the amount is due recorded as unpaid in the books of accounts or not. So he should see whether any unpaid interest, any unpaid installment, whether they are showing it is as unpaid or not, is very important, because if they are showing as paid, so it is a fraud made by done by the company. So you should carefully examine the interest and loans. So this is about the valuation verification of loans and trade creditors and bills of exchange and plants and machinery uh, of valuation and verification. Very important to know the actual financial position of the company. So the verification is very important. And the valuation is also very important. The whether the company financial position is good or not is very important for the stakeholders. So this could be revealed by the auditor after verification and valuation of assets.